Man is shown in the forest at the start of the film. He is desperately trying to find his way out, acting like a madman. The forest is so dense that escape seems impossible. He navigates by the sun, but now it has set. Despite the darkness, he keeps running. Eventually, he reaches a point marked by a sign reading "Point of No Return," indicating that no one can go back from there. Fear is evident on his face as the darkness deepens and the birds fly away. With nowhere to hide, he climbs a tree but unfortunately falls from a great height. Before losing consciousness, we see someone pulling him away. His screams of pain echo as the scene cuts to 6 days later. In the city, we meet a girl named Mina, who has no friends or family except for her sister. She works at a pet store, and her boss asks her to deliver a parrot to the zoo. Mina takes the parrot home, planning to go to the zoo the next day. She spends the night with the parrot and sets out for the zoo in the morning. On her way, she takes a wrong turn and ends up in the forest, the same forest where the man disappeared. She drives into the forest but soon realizes she's lost and has to leave her car. Hoping to find someone who can help, she takes the parrot and starts walking. As darkness falls, the birds suddenly fly away and the ground shakes. Mina, now frightened, sees an old woman running and follows her, asking for help. The woman doesn't stop, but eventually she calls out to Mina, telling her to run fast to stay alive.
Care for your life, you're going to have to run.
Mina runs back to the old woman, who leads her to a house and locks the door. Inside, it's a strange room with a large mirror and 2 other people. Mina, scared, asks what this place is, but they don't respond, only instructing her to stand in front of the mirror because the Watchers are coming. Strange noises fill the air, and the old woman named Madeline says the Watchers are pleased that Mina has arrived. Though the Watchers are never shown, their presence is felt. The night passes uneventfully. In the morning, Madeline explains that the Watchers only come out at night so they can roam the forest freely during the day. Mina wants to leave the forest, but Madeline warns her that there is no way out and that she must return to the house before nightfall to survive. Ignoring the warning, Mina ventures further into the forest, hoping to find a way out. Mina reaches the point of no return sign, but continues forward, following the sun. Suddenly, the ground shakes and she runs back to the house, realizing she can't escape. Madeline comforts her, explaining that they have all tried and failed to leave the forest, which traps souls and drives them to madness. She shows Mina numerous point of no return signs scattered in a circle around the house, warning her not to ignore them. Madeline reveals that the signs were placed by a professor who also tried to escape. At night, the Watchers return. A girl named Kira dances for them, enjoying the attention. During the day, they face other challenges, such as hunting for food. The next day, Kira and Mina go into the forest to gather supplies. Mina asks Kira about the Watchers, and Kira explains that Madeline believes the Watchers observe them but will drive anyone who sees them insane. Kira shows Mina a cave where the Watchers supposedly stay during the day. Mina learns that Kira's husband ventured into the forest to find an escape. Mina hopes he will succeed, but we know he is the man who was taken at the start of the film. Back at the house, Madeline outlines 3 rules for survival. Never open the door at night, never turn your back to the mirror at night, and stay away from the caves during the day. Curious about the Watchers, Mina tries to listen to the mirror at night. She turns her back to it, angering the Watchers, who start banging on the mirror. Madeline wakes up and tells Mina to face the mirror to calm them down. The next day, Mina goes hunting with Daniel, determined to find a way out. She convinces Daniel to explore a cave, tying a rope to herself for safety. Inside, she finds human belongings, but gets scared when she sees fingers emerging from the hole. Back at the house, they lie about where they found the items. Madeline, suspicious, demands the truth, but they remain silent. They set up a camera to observe the Watchers, despite Madeline's warnings. That night, someone knocks on the door, speaking in Kira's husband's voice. Kira wants to open the door, but Madeline insists it's a trick. Kira tests the person with a question only her husband would know, and when he fails to answer, they realize it's a Watcher. The Watchers break the camera, and everyone stands in front of the mirror to prevent them from breaking. Mina and Daniel decides to confess to Madeline. They confess to Madeline that they went to the ditch, which makes her very angry. She reprimands them, saying, "You broke the rules." In the morning, Madeline throws the bicycle into the burrow, demanding that they no longer break the rules. Later, Mina recalls her sister and mother, who invited the girls for a car ride on a beautiful day. Mina opened the window despite her mother's request to close it because the wind was bothersome. Ignoring her mother's plea, Mina mimicked her, distracting her mother from the road, leading to a tragic accident for which Mina still feels guilty. Winter soon arrived, and the days grew shorter, the nights colder, and food became increasingly scarce. Quarrels began to flare up among the cabin's inhabitants. One day, Kira left for the forest, and Mina caught up with her. Kira confessed that she felt John was real. They ran to the house, hearing Daniel's screams. Angry with Madeline and Mina, Daniel refused to let them inside. The women hid under a tree and soon saw lanky, spider-like monsters emerging from the forest, approaching the cabin window and making terrible shrill noises. The watchers stared at Daniel and Kira, while Mina and Madeline waited for them to leave so they could return to the cabin. When they did, the women rushed to the door and begged to be let in. Daniel refused, and then Mina told him about her guilt regarding her mother, asking him to understand that he would suffer all his life if he didn't take responsibility. Realizing this, Daniel opened the door, and the four of them immediately stood in front of the mirror, hoping to convince the watchers that they were in place. Madeline admitted that she tried to protect them from certain things. She used to teach history and mythology, and unlike them, came here voluntarily. Only here did she realize how dangerous this place was. Once, she hunted alone and saw herself at sunset. Not an exact copy, but very similar. The Watchers are an ancient species with many names: changelings, winged ones, fairies. They study people to impersonate them and will never let them leave. Suddenly, they heard the voices of the cabin's inhabitants outside. Then Daniel found a hatch in the floor, which they didn't even know existed. Descending, they discovered a well-fortified and equipped living space filled with food and equipment. Mina turned on an old computer and found a video recording of the professor, whose real name was Rory Kilmartin. He was the first to study the Watchers and tried to learn about their origins. In 1979, the scientist found this place, which he called Wonderland. Every evening, the Watchers came to his window and studied him for many years. Before this, the professor's colleagues laughed at him, not believing his tales. Then he built this bunker using the labor of men from nearby remote villages. He chose the lonely, or those with bad habits, so that their disappearance would not attract much attention. Every evening, he convinced them to have dinner outdoors. Hiding inside, he watched the Watchers deal with them, thus building the bunker on blood. One day, a Watcher appeared before him in the form of a girl with red hair. She was very different from the others, as if she were unique and looked curious and harmless. That's when he realized that if he unlocked the secrets of the fairies, he might even conquer death. He did the impossible. He lured the girl into a cage and began experiments on communication, trying to befriend her. She changed form, sometimes turning into a frightening creature with long arms, but seemed to listen to him. Gradually, she became close and understandable to him. But now, the professor realized he had achieved nothing significant and was ready to end his life. He hid a boat by the river, which was the only way out. Just follow the birds. He asked the survivor to go to his university office and destroy all the documents found there. In the last recording, they saw Kilmartin climbing up, gunshots were heard, and then all was quiet. Realizing that this was their last night in the forest, Kira turned on the music and invited Daniel to dance. He seemed upset about leaving, saying his family was dysfunctional and he had nowhere to return to. Kira offered to let him stay with her for a while until they found him a good occupation and place to live, as they had become good friends. In the morning, the group set out to escape, guided by the signs and Mina's parrot, whom she asked to lead them. Soon they reached a massive stone disc in the ground, covering the entrance to a huge tunnel. Madeline explained that this was where the last representatives of the ancient fairy race were locked up, who were once very friendly with humans. After many centuries, they managed to surface, but now the friendship had turned into hatred. They stayed here because they were held by magic, so they needed to run far away. They walked all day. As dusk fell, there was no river or boat in sight. It started raining, and they fell into despair. Then they saw huge flocks of birds flying in one direction. They ran after them and reached the river. The women rushed to the boat when Daniel heard screams behind him and saw John. He returned for him, rejoicing that the man survived, but it turned out to be a changeling. The women screamed, begging Daniel to run, but he didn't hear and died at the hands of the Watcher, who then took on his form. While Madeline, Mina, and Kira sailed down the river, they woke up in the boat and saw that they had returned to civilization. They stopped a bus and rode to the city, listening to music and only now realizing that it was over. Later, Mina went to the university where Kill Martin worked, posing as his niece to enter his office and fulfill his last request. There she found more documents, photos, and a recording in which he discussed the fairies and the fact that there were still half-blood children in the world. Mina found a stack of photos and looking at them seemed very surprised. In the evening, Mina went to Kira's house, showing a photo of Madeline from the professor's belongings, explaining that it was his wife who died several years ago. The Madeline they lived with in the cabin was a special fairy capable of moving during the day. She was the one whom Kill Martin caught. He couldn't kill her, and she took on Madeline's form to return to civilization. Then a car pulled up to the house and the real Kira got out. The one Mina had been talking to was actually a fairy. Realizing she had been exposed, the fairy knocked Mina out and changed shape again, turning into Daniel. They just wanted to live like other species, but due to human hatred, were forced to stay underground. The fairy turned into Kill Martin and went to Mina in the house. The fairy transformed into her and prepared to kill the girl, but Mina said that there were others like her somewhere because she was half human. She acknowledged that it was unfair of humans to banish the fairies from their world. The fairy softened and spread her wings, admitting that Mina might be right, and she flew away. Mina revived Kira and later reunited with her twin sister Lucy, finally forgiving herself for their mother's death. She told her about her experience, admitting that she still saw Madeline appearing in the forms of other people. Her niece arrived to show Mina a drawing of her and Darwin, whom she still kept as a pet. Meanwhile, outside, a girl with red hair appeared, looking at their apartment windows and taking on the form of a girl with a strange face. That's it for today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe to watch more interesting recap videos. Thanks for watching.